Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's solo episode on the Podiatry Legends podcast. Podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. Today, I want to talk about audio marketing for podiatrists. Now, when it comes to creating online content, there's really only three ways of doing it. First way is written content. And that's like your blogs, frequently asked questions, and different articles that you can write, long form and short form articles. The second thing that you can do creating content is visual, creating videos. You might put some photos together. It could be infographics. There's a number of ways that you can actually do it. The third type of online content, which is becoming popular, is using audio. And in the next couple of weeks, I'm doing a workshop called Audio Marketing for Podiatrists, which is what prompted this particular episode. And what I found funny about it is when I started promoting the workshop, and it's only a small group, 6-8 people, I sold 5 tickets for it really, really fast. Just went like that. What was interesting though, the next one took a lot longer to sell. And I'm sitting back thinking, why don't podiatrists understand the power of using audio? And then I realized when I started doing a bit of reading on it, I realized that they just don't understand. They don't understand the power of audio. So that's why I wanted to talk about it today. Audio marketing has been used, for a very long time. All you do is just think about radio. And when you think of radio, most people will have a favorite radio station. And even on that station, they will have a favorite announcer that they usually listen to all the time. What's interesting is when you're listening to an announcer on a regular basis, you start to form like a relationship, a bit of a bond with that announcer. And it's because audio just creates that bond. It creates this emotional sort of connection. Now, if that happens with you with a radio announcer, can you imagine your voice being heard on a regular basis in different forms of audio content that your patients can listen to, or potential patients? They may listen to you a number of times creating some form of online content, and all of a sudden they feel like they know you over a period of time, which is why I think it's really important. What I want to read something that was the history of radio. And I'm just going to click through, just bear with me for a sec. And once radio started to work, get a little bit more popular, it was first just used by engineers and hobbyists, and they used to call them hams. Now, I'm going to read this exactly as it's written on this pbs.org website. It says here, to most people, it seemed amusing, but a novelty that would have no practical application. One obstacle to radio's acceptance, and I'm just going to add a little bit here, it was a bit complicated and hard to actually set up. But then some radio companies started creating like ready-made machines that people could actually set up. So it was less complicated. Then in 1920, Westinghouse, which we've probably all heard of, one of the leading radio manufacturers, had the idea for selling more radios. It would start offering programming. Radio began as a one-on-one method of communication. So to them, it was like a really novel idea. So Dr. Frank Conrad was in Pittsburgh, and he was a ham operator, and he had a lot of connections. He had a lot of people that used to listen to what he had to say. And he would frequently just play records over the airwaves for the benefit of his friends. Now, this was just the sort of thing that Westinghouse had in mind. And they asked Conrad to help set up a regular station that transmitted on a regular basis. So on November the 2nd, 1920, station KDKA made the nation's first commercial broadcast. And I think it was Conrad himself that actually said, this is a commercial broadcast. They chose that date because it was actually election day in America. So they thought this would be a great time for people to actually be tuning in. So the KDKA was a massive hit, and it inspired a lot of other companies to start getting into broadcasting as well. Now, remember, this was a fad that they thought would not last. In 4 years, there were 600 commercial stations around the country. And to keep up with the cost of improving the equipment and paying for performers, stations then started turning to advertising. See, isn't that really cool? Then in August 1922, the first radio ad for a real estate developer was aired in New York City. Networks of local stations developed to share more programming, and bigger businesses started getting involved in it. Now, I'm starting to add a little bit here. What happened is The first nationwide broadcast was in 1927, and that was the National Broadcasting Company, and it was the Rose Bowl that was being held in Pasadena. Because the industry was getting so big and was getting so chaotic, the Federal Radio Commission was established in 1927 to assign frequencies to broadcasters. So there was a little bit of history on the radio. Now, remember, this is something that they thought was never really going to take off. Yet, once people started having that emotional connection, it actually boomed. So this takes me back onto why I think podiatrists should get involved in audio marketing. Now, if you haven't considered audio marketing as part of your marketing strategy, I think now is the perfect time to do it while it is being underutilized by the rest of the profession. If nobody else is using it, then you should dive in and start using it. And there's so many different ways that you can use audio marketing. And that is the purpose of the workshop, is to show podiatrists how to use audio marketing to market their podiatry businesses, market themselves, and actually stand out from the crowd. And the best thing about audio too, it doesn't need to be the highest quality audio. It just needs to be good audio. We're not sound engineers, we're podiatrists. So just like listening to this podcast, I have a very simple setup in my home office, simple microphone that cost me like $82. I've got a sound recorder. It is a very, very simple process. So the first part when it comes to audio, and another part that I really like about audio before I move on, is it's actually cheap to produce. Audio is a lot easier than video. Video, you've got to get in front of a camera. You're going to make sure the lighting's right. Even when I'm doing the video for the podcast now that I put on my YouTube channel, if you want to go and check it out, just look for Tyson E. Franklin Podiatry Business Coach. And I have to hook up the light, and there's certain things you've just got to be aware of. What shirt am I wearing? Have I shaved? Which I obviously haven't today. And that's what puts people off a video. Audio, though, bang, flick a switch, and you can start recording thoughts straight away. So the first part, you need to capture audio. And it all begins with, there's multiple ways of basically doing it. Simplest way is you can easily just have your smartphone, and you can record straight onto that if you wanted to. If you want to make it better, you need to plug in like a lapel mic or a Bluetooth microphone that links to your iPhone. So that is a really, really simple way of doing it. The other part I recommend too is you need to have an app that you're going to record on, and I recommend having a script. So give you a perfect example, there's an app that I like called Voice Recorder. It's on iPhones, and there's probably equivalents on other Android devices. But I also recommend having a script, what it is that you're going to talk about. So if you want to record some form of audio, depending on what you're going to use it for, don't just ramble on. If you're constantly going, yeah, and that can become annoying very quickly for the person that's listening to it. So as long as you have some form of script that you're actually running through, like at the moment, I actually have notes in front of me for this particular episode just to keep me on track. Otherwise, I do have a tendency to go miles off track and all over the place. So remember, first part, you need to capture the audio. The second part, you need to use an app to actually do that with. Now, you can also capture audio on your computer. And at the moment, even this video, I'm just doing this video, recording it purely on Zoom. That's how easy it is. So first part, capture the audio. Second part, use some form of app. The next part is make sure you've got a script, something that you're actually going to follow and give you a little bit of guidance. The next step after that is you need to do some form of editing. Now, I think this is really, really important. When you listen back to yourself on audio, and if you haven't done it before, when you listen back, you're going to go, my God, I sound like a goose. I sound awful. My voice sounds funny. Nobody would want to listen to that. Before you edit it, dump it, and just get rid of it altogether, I recommend give it to somebody else and let them have a listen to it. And you'll probably find that they will all tell you, you sound fine. That was really good. But if there is some fault in there, if it's a little bit scratchy or there's noise in the background, which often happens, sometimes it can't be avoided, you may need to re-record it. But don't be overly concerned about your own voice. So that's just something to really, really, really consider. But if you're doing very simple messages, might be 30, 60-second messages, you probably need next to no editing. But If you do need to do some editing, you're going to need an editing program, and there are some free ones and there are some paid ones. Now, where are you going to use this? Once you've got your audio, where are you going to use it? The thing that is important is you can use it for training staff. You can use it on your website. There's so many, you can use it as part of your marketing, which is why I call it audio marketing for podiatrists. You can create MP3s. There's so many different places, but this is the important part. Every time you create something audio, it is an asset to your business. So if you've got a lot of training modules, you have a new staff member joins, why not have a pile of training modules explaining things that they need to do, as well as just videos? The other part that you need to remember is you need to have a media host. So just like you have a web host for your website, you also need a media host if you want to use your recordings in Facebook, in LinkedIn. You need to have any social media platform you go to put it on. You need to host your audio somewhere, and then that audio gets put onto those sites. Once again, there's a lot of free ones and there are paid ones, and there's, like anything, you get what you pay for. So a lot of the stuff that I use, my editing software, I use the paid version. The hosting software, I use the paid version, and it is not expensive. When you look at the big scheme of things, and like I always say, always use the orthotic economy. When you look at how much you want a patient to pay for an orthotic, and you'll sit there going, oh, why won't they pay that? But then you'll hear a podiatrist go, oh no, I don't want to pay $20 for a month for that particular software. You're going, seriously, you want a patient to pay $400, but you won't pay $20 for some software. So just keep that in mind. It is all relative. Use the orthotic economy. So the other part you can do that I think is really important is you can then combine audio with pictures. So if you don't like being in front of a video camera and talking, which a lot of people don't, you can create what they call an audiogram, and you can combine some pictures with some audio, put it together, and put that out on social media or on your website. There's so many different places you can actually use it, and they are amazing. And you probably, if you're on the Podiatry Legends podcast page or the Podiatry Business Owners Club on Facebook, you would have seen the audiograms that I put up there on a fairly regular basis. So just want to talk about the workshop. Now, I know you may listen to this before the workshop comes up on the 19th of June. If you want any details, go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, just click on events. Now, if you're listening to this after the 19th of June, that's fine. I may or I may not do more workshops. I don't know. It just depends what sort of interest I get. But I hope you take something away from this. And if I've said anything that you sort of go, wow, I think I could use audio in my marketing. Well, don't think you should be using audio in your marketing. Send me an email to tf@tysonfranklin.com and just say, I want to know more about audio marketing. What can I do? What are the next steps? So like just a bit of review. When I'm doing the workshop, we're going to be covering recording and capturing the audio using your iPhone, computers, and different audio recorders. So at the moment, I'm recording on a thing called the PodTrack P4, but I also have another thing called a Zoom H6. So there's different types of ways that you can record. I do record occasionally on my iPhone, but not very often. There's different types of microphones. There's lapel mics, there's Bluetooth mics. There's a USB mic, which is the one that I'm actually using now, the ATR 2100. From all that, you can create very professional sounding MP3s, and then finding the audio platform that is the best one for you. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to be talking about using Canva and creating good images that you can then combine with your audio to create really cool audiograms. And then also adding scripts to your audiograms. So even though it's an audio marketing workshop, I am going to be touching on using the audio in your video, because there's also a couple of really tricky video secrets that you can do where you can only be in front of the camera for a split second, maybe 3 or 4 seconds, but people will think you're actually on there for 30 seconds. I went and did a full day video course probably about a year ago, or maybe 9 months ago. And it was so good. I took so much away from it, and how you could actually combine that with the audio and create some really, really special things. And the other part we're going to talk about in the workshop is just, how to use the audio in your social media marketing, and how you can add it to your websites and how you can add it to your blogs. So I hope you get something from this. Oh, one last thing before I finish. Once you get good with audio, just like, say, using the right microphone, how to talk into it, all that type of thing, is it really helps when you become a podcast guest. There's a lot of podiatrists out there that I would love to have on the Podiatry Legends podcast, to tell you right now. So if you're listening to this and you've got a story, you've got something to share, something inspiring, something about your career in podiatry, please reach out to me. Send me an email, tf@tysonfranklin.com, and just give me a little bit of info on what it is that you think would be great. And I will get you on the podcast. I love sharing other people's stories. So, but the thing is, by understanding how to use audio properly, you sound so much better as a podcast guest. Sometimes I've had guests on where the audio hasn't been the best. And even though the conversation has been fantastic, they've commented themselves, oh, I wish I had have sounded better. Have a good microphone, know how to use it, and it will definitely make you sound like a more professional podcast guest now and in the future. So I hope you get something from that. Before I finish up, just a reminder, I do have a YouTube channel, Tyson E. Franklin, Podiatry Business Coach. Jump on there. And I will bring you another solo episode next week and another guest episode as well. Okay, look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.